who were very fortunate could see that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was present. So you could just imagine they were seeing him doing something very odd because they couldn't see Lord Chaitanya. They couldn't see Lord Nityananda putting the prasad into Lord Chaitanya's mouth. They just see him doing something like this and there's nobody there. Or that somebody's putting something into his mouth and he's laughing. The day after the festival, Lord Nityananda Prabhu gave Raghunath Das the blessing that he would very soon attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Before long, Raghunath Das managed to run away with the help of his priest, Yadunandan Acharya, and after 12 days he arrived in Jagannath Puri at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later the Lord sent him to Vrindavan and he became known as Raghunath Das Goswami. Sri Raghunath Das Goswami ki, Sri Chiddahi Utsava ki, Sri Kodnitai Mahaprasad ki. And I'll just read a little from Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita now. So we're reading from the Prabhupada Leela Amrita, Volume 6, United Two Worlds, and the chapter's entitled Chana Hare Krishna Fight, but there seems to be the markers disappeared.
There's an index, if you look. It's talking about Argentina in the index.
There's index.
It's talking about, probably just talking about Argentina.
Felix will show you because he was reading.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 13, entitled Rahugana Converses with Jad Bharat. And who said that? Text number 21 is it? Okay, some of these verses are a little difficult to chant. I'll give it a try. Rajovacha, Aho, Nri, Janmakila, Janma, Shobanam, Aho Nri Janmakila, Janma Shobanam, Kim, Janmabis, Tu, Aparayar, Api, Hamushmin, Kim Janmabis, Tva Parayar, Apyamushmin, Na Yad Drishikesha Yasha Kritatmanam Na Yad Drishikesha Yasha Kritatmanam Mahatmana Va Prachura Samagama Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama Rajovacha Ahonri Ahonri Janma Kila Janma Shobanam Ahonri Janma Kila Janma Shobanam Kinjanma Bistva Parayat Apyamushmin Kim Janma Bistva Pa Rar Apyamushmin Nayadrishi Kesha Yat Yasha Kritatmanam Nayadrishi Kesha Yasha Kritatmanam Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama Rajovacha Aho Nrijanma Kila Janma Shobhanam Aho Nrijanma Kila Janma Shobhanam Kim Janma Bistva Parayat Apyamushmin Kim Janma Bistva Parayat Apyamushmin Nayadrishi Kesha Yasha Kritatmanam Nayadrishi Kesha Yasha Kritatmanam Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama Rajovacha Aho Nrijanma Kila Janma Shobhanam Kim Janma Bistva Parar Apyamushmin Nayadrishi Kesha Yasha Kritatmanam Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama. Please chant.
Aho Nirjanma Kila Janma Shobhanam Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama
Rajovacha Holy Janma Kila Janma Shobhanam Kim Janma Vistva Parayapyamushmin Yadrishikesha Yasha Kritatmanam Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama
Rajovacha Aho Nirjanma Kila Janma Shobhanam Kim Janma Vistva Parayat Apyamushmin Nayadrishi Kesha Kritatmanam Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama
Would you like to try?
Rajovacha Aho Nirjanma Kila Janma Shobhanam Kim Janma Vistva Parayat Apyamushmin Nayadrishi Kesha Yasha Kritatmanam Mahatmanam Va Prachura Samagama
Raja Uvacha. King Rahugana said, Aho, alas, Nrijanma, you who have taken birth as a human being. Akila Janma Shobhanam, the best of all species of life. You Kim, what need? Janmabi, with births in higher species, with birth in higher species like the demigods and the heavenly planets. 2, but, aparai, not superior, happy, indeed, amushmin, in the next birth, na, not, yat, which, Rishikesha Yasha, by the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rishikesh, the master of all senses. Krita Atmanam, of those whose hearts are purified. Maha Atmanam, who are actually great souls. Va, of us. Prachura, abundant. Samagama, the association. Translation, King Arhugana said, this birth as a human being is the best of all. Even birth among the demigods and the heavenly planets is not as glorious as birth as a human being on this earth. What is the use of the exalted position of a demigod in the heavenly planets? Due to profuse material comforts, there is no possibility of associating with devotees. Please repeat. King Arhugana said, this birth as a human being is the best of all. Even birth among the demigods and the heavenly planets is not as glorious as birth as a human being on this earth. What is the use of the exalted position of a demigod? In the heavenly planets, due to profuse material comforts, there is no possibility of associating with devotees. Prabhupada ki purport. Human birth is a great opportunity for self-realization. One may take birth in a high planetary system among the demigods, but due to the profusion of material comforts, one cannot gain release from material bondage. Even on this earth, those who are very opulent do not generally care to take to Krishna consciousness. An intelligent person actually interested in getting freed from the material clutches must associate with pure devotees. By such association, one can gradually become detached from the material attraction of money and women, or men. Money and women are the basic principles of material attachment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised that those who are actually serious about returning back to Godhead to give up money and women in order to be fit to enter the kingdom of God. Money and women can be fully utilized in the service of the Lord, and one who can utilize them in this way can become freed from material bondage. Satam pasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata. Bhagavatam 3:25-25. Only in the association of devotees can one relish the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just through a little association with a pure devotee, one can become successful in his journey back to Godhead. Om Agyanatmarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yana Tasman Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagate Gramnyat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gramjina Taranam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. King Arhugana said, this birth as a human being is the best of all. Even birth among the demigods and the heavenly planets is not as glorious as birth as a human being on this earth. What is the use of the exalted position of a demigod? Heavenly planets, due to profuse material comforts, there's no possibility of associating with devotees. So, Prabhupada makes some interesting points here, and also King Arhugana makes a very good point here, is that when we're enjoying too much then we feel we don't need Krishna. We're enjoying. When we're suffering too much, we can't have a steady mind either. When you're enjoying so much, we can do some crazy things which we don't really consider. Just like even on earth, if you go down any high street on a Saturday night and you see people getting very much intoxicated and getting themselves very entangled in situations that either they regret the next morning or they may regret for the rest of their life, simply because they're in the spirit of enjoying. And when one is in such an enjoying spirit, they don't care for animals being slaughtered. They don't care for children being killed in the womb. They don't care for hurting other people or destroying their family. Through gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, these things. These are the 4 sinful activities which are diametrically opposed to Brahminical principles. So can anybody name one of the Brahminical principles? There's 4 of them. Any of the Bhaktas? Name one or more. That is the sinful activity. So what is the relevant or related Brahminical principle? Austerity. So if one is intoxicated, then it's not so easy to be austere. They become lazy, isn't it? They might be kind of austere in the sense that they'll fall asleep in the street, or they'll go out and perform austerities with hardly any clothes on a Saturday night, and it's freezing cold, like when we used to do book distribution in Leeds and many other countries. In a Saturday night, cities, sorry, on a Saturday night, you'd see men would be standing there in a thin, short-sleeved shirt, even in the dead of winter, queuing up to get into the nightclubs, and the girls would be standing with bare legs and short skirts, and they were suffering, they were freezing, but because their thing was to enjoy. And then when they come out, they're intoxicated and they're falling around the place, apparently enjoying, but because we were there sober as a judge, or maybe even more sober than a judge has ever been, then we could see that these people are suffering. They're trying to enjoy, but they're actually suffering. And this is called Maya, that we take our suffering to be enjoyment. And they don't realize that they're suffering. And therefore the devotees go into all situations to try to give them the message. And people who are fortunate enough come to their senses and take that message and change their life. I would say that if we get a book to somebody that can change your life. Even at one point when the devotees were doing book distribution, rather than speaking to somebody for half an hour and then don't even take a book, or they might not read it, then they were limiting it to 3 minutes preaching. You just, if a person doesn't take books within 3 minutes, then just go on to someone else. And Prabhupada says, but what use will your 3 minutes preaching do? If they read this book, it will change their life. So he was emphasizing the main thing is to get the book out to them. So when you give a book to someone, you're giving them Prabhupada's association. And just as it changed our lives, it can change them, because we were no different from them, were we? We were doing all the same things they were doing. And sometimes we were worse than some of them. Sometimes maybe not so bad, but so the words coming from the pure devotee is going to go straight to their heart. And Krishna's in their heart too, if they're searching. Did anybody ever experience that in their search, if they opened one of Prabhupada's books, it just actually opened the very thing they had to see? I personally got that, and I thought, this really, because I was very confused reading all sorts of things and thinking, well, everybody says they're right and everyone else is wrong. And then when I opened up the Bhagavad Gita a couple of times, when I was really searching for some specific confirmation, and it just opened up on that page, and it just almost leapt out at us. Some people call this synchronicity, is that right? But it's a bit more than that. Synchronicity is just some other term for the supersoul within the heart. Same with instinct. They say that we have instinct with animals. They don't have intelligence, they just have instinct. What is that instinct which makes them do so many intelligent things? What is that instinct which causes the ants to all cooperate with each other? It's the supersoul within the heart, within all living beings. What is the instinct that tells a bird to fly 6,000 miles to build a nest in a barn in Lismahago called Crunabhavan and lay its eggs there, and the little chicks take birth in the holy dam. So the super soul is in the heart of all living beings. And and the reason why the earth planet is actually the most favourable situation for taking to Krishna consciousness is because there is some enjoyment and there's some suffering. So we can see that in the heavenly planets the enjoyment is so profuse that we're just overwhelmed with the spirit of enjoyment that we don't even think. And because it's such a long lifespan, they tend to think, just like when you're a child, you're 5-year-old and your parents are like 30, and you think, I'll never get to that age. And then you look back and realise, I'm that age and beyond. And time passes by quickly, and you only know that when you get older, and then you look back and see, it went by quick. And it's very much like an hourglass. When an hourglass is full at the top, and it's got a small aperture, and the sand is passing through, and it seems like it's going to take forever to fill up. And then as it goes down, as it gets closer to this part, the kind of venturi, or where it narrows down, then it looks like it's going very fast. So this is like time, it's according to our perception, but the whole is the same size. So time is passing through, the sand is passing through at the same rate. It's not going slower, it's not going faster, but it's our perception of it. So we have a short lifespan in the human form, and our perception of it is that when we get older, we realise time is running out. I don't have much time, I've been wasting so much time. What am I going to do with the rest of the time that I have? I'm going to stick my head in the sand and hope that I won't die. I'll be the first person that will have never have died. And who would want to live in this body forever? You can see the state of it now, that people are living to 90 years old quite commonly. They're finding so many diseases which they never had before. So say they get everyone to live to 110, what they're going to find then? And what kind of state are you going to be living in? It's and this desire to live forever is natural because we do live forever. It's just not this body. The body doesn't live forever. The person is destined. And as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, for one who is born, death is certain. For one who has died, birth is certain. Unless we're fortunate to take to the path of Krishna consciousness and become God conscious in this life. Here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's showing us the many pitfalls. Of course, it's mentioning here women and wealth, but also it's not, we can't just blame the poor women. It's not like, women is the cause of this, so we just cut them out of our life. Because women also may be attracted, and even men are attracted to men. So it's not necessarily that, but it's called Maitunya Agara. Does anybody know what that means? Ragana?
Sex bondage or
shackles. Shackles of sex life. This is the thing which bonds us to the material world more than anything. And this is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And demonic natures, the demoniac person thinks there's nothing beyond this material world, and the cause of it is simply sex life. So therefore people who think that life just begins by procreation and that there's no other cause of it, there's no remote cause. So there may be the immediate cause, just like if we get some reaction, say Javit's just had himself a banana and he just chucks it carelessly behind his shoulder, and then I walk down and I slip on it and I break my leg, and I'll be like, Javit, you caused this. And he can say, that is only the immediate cause. The remote cause is your karma. You slipped on it, nobody else. Of course, Javit's more responsible than that. So there's the immediate cause and there's the remote cause. We can play this blame game that this one caused this and the one caused that, but ultimately something happened to us because it was due to happen to us, and that is a very, very difficult thing for people to accept, because we only want to see, we want justice, we want to see someone being punished for what they did to us, we want some blood, and then we'll be satisfied. It's like mob rule, isn't it? Sometimes that people grow impatient on the law serving justice, or if someone gets away with something and everybody considers them guilty, then sometimes people will take the law into their own hands. But the law of karma, then of course we have law of the land as well. It's not that we should just let everybody do what they want and let karma take care of it. That's why there's the kshatriyas there, the administrators. They're there to make sure that law and order is there and that systems are followed and the innocent citizens are protected. So there's a need for that. Now just imagine if a country which had very valuable resources was very pacifist and decided we're not going to have any kind of defence strategy whatsoever because we just don't believe in war, then they'd be the first one to be invaded, wouldn't it? And this is what happens in history. People become lax about their situation and the kingdom goes to someone else who's just waiting on an opportunity. So this is the material world. So in the lower planetary systems, the people are suffering so much that all they can think about is for their suffering to stop. And they're so preoccupied with the suffering. In the higher planetary systems, then they're enjoying so much that they just want to keep on enjoying. So just like maybe you were a child and you went to the fairground and you were on some kind of the waltzers or the Big Dipper or something like that, some kind of fun ride, and you're thinking, oh, this is great, we're having such fun, we're so elated, and you know, and you're just enjoying the moment for what you can, but you know your pocket money's running out soon, and you'll have to wait till next week to come back again. Or whatever we're enjoying in the material world, we're thinking, oh, this is great. We go to some festival and we're having a great time. We're thinking, oh, this is the thing, you know, I wish this would last forever. And it won't, because everything in the material world has a beginning and end, just like the Matrasparshas Konteya, Shitoshna, Sukadukada, Shita and Ushna, the winter and summer seasons, they come and go, and happiness and distress comes and goes. So on the earthly plane, we experience that where the happiness comes and it goes, it's short-lived, and the distress comes and that also goes. Not that we're in constant severe suffering all the time. Some people are suffering a lot more than others, it's true. Some people are enjoying a lot more than others, but we can experience both happiness and distress, and we can see others experiencing happiness and distress. And this is the best fertile ground for considering what's this all about. Why is it someone else is much more fortunate than someone else? Why is it someone is less fortunate? So because they're living entity by nature in the material world, Prabhupada explains in the first canto that we come to the material world to enjoy separately from Krishna. We think, oh, I wonder what it's like to be Krishna, the enjoyer. And so Krishna says, well, here's the material world. If you want to be the enjoyer, you can compete with all the other enjoyers. They're all here trying to be me. It's not their constitutional position, but if you really want to do it, you can try it. And Krishna tries to talk us out of it, but we're thinking, no, Krishna, I'll be okay. I'll remember you. I'll be back soon, don't worry. I won't forget you, my best friend, but I just want to enjoy a bit. Just like even sometimes people come to the temple and they accept everything and they know everything is right and think, yeah, but I just want to go and do something. So this yeah, but means yes, no, I agree, but no, I'm going to do something else. And even like while living in the temple or at home as well, we accept Krishna consciousness and we still continue to maintain material attachments even after we know there's a higher purpose. So at some time we have to, between now and go back to Godhead, we have to actually give up our attachments. If we don't give them up in this lifetime, then we'll have another lifetime to get the choice again. And can we be sure that the opportunity is going to be as favourable as it is just now? We have everything which is necessary for becoming Krishna conscious now. And if whatever is between us and Krishna, then that has to be removed, whether it's today, tomorrow, 10 years, 10 lifetimes. We still have to overcome it. We still have to get through that. And Prabhupada makes it very easy. He's basically telling us that just utilize everything in Krishna's service. There's a way where you can utilize everything in Krishna's service. But so certain things have to be given up. So one thing which is mentioned here is in the heavenly planets, it says there's no possibility of associating with devotees because devotees, they don't hang around the heavenly planets. They're not interested. They're not interested in personal liberation and certainly not interested in going to the heavenly planets to enjoy their senses. That is not a devotee. So you won't get the association of devotees there, not very easily. Maybe the odd millennia you might happen to see Narada Muni if you're lucky, but there's not even any guarantee of that because you're there basically sentenced to enjoy your senses for many, many thousands of years. And that might sound good, but once the your punya has run out, then you have to come back down again. So, and Krishna, he gives us this opportunity to enjoy separate from him, and Prabhupada explains also beyond that in trying to do so, then we become frustrated because it's not compatible. The living entity trying to enjoy dull matter. We're a higher energy trying to enjoy and lord over an inferior energy. Therefore, we don't get that rasa which we had with Krishna. We don't get that connection. There's no love there. Prema, that is what the living entity hankers, is to have that pure love of God. So we become frustrated and then we turn back to Krishna. So that's the whole thing. So we come here for a little excursion. We bop around in the material world for a few million births. And we think, oh, this is not really happening. You know, it's Maya's promising this every time. She says, just one more step and you'll get the carrot. You've been saying this for years and I never got the carrot. I thought I had it once, and then it slipped, and then that kept me going for another few lifetimes. So it's always just another step away. It's like we procrastinate. We think, well, tomorrow I'll do something about this. Tomorrow I'll do something, but tomorrow never comes, right? It's always another day away. Just like we do this drama called the Bhogi Yogi. So Bhogi and sense enjoying. Sometimes in the name of a yogi, someone they'll pose themselves, but actually they're not a yogi, they're a bhogi. And it's interesting how the word bogus also is very similar to bhogi. The Bhogi Yogi, he's making out that he's very advanced, and he makes these kind of pseudo spiritual sayings like love is love is love. And what does that mean? I've heard it. It's a load of nonsense. And so they say these nonsense pseudo spiritual things, and people go, wow, that's great. I don't know what you're talking about, but it must be something really far out. Really, it's so transcendental that nobody's on his platform, and the guy's just a cheat. So yeah, the one time we'll ask the Hoaxja and other devotees to put on this drama, the Bhogi Yogi. Perhaps we'll do it sooner. And it's some very good lessons in there. We used to do it in public, and it was very enlightening for people who maybe think that everybody who calls himself a Swami is a Swami, or a yogi, or a representative of some spiritual path. So anyway, this particular Bhogi Yogi, Swami Ripoff Ananda, he was he simply makes some advertisement. He opens up his Centre for Self-Realization, and him and his cohort Shakti Susi, they they get Mr. Burke, right? Was it Mr. Burke? He was a right Burke, as they say. So he comes along and, is this a Centre for Self-Realization? Yes. And come in, the Swami's been expecting you. Of course, he made an appointment, but the Swami's sitting there going, yes, is this Mr. Burke? He's sitting there with his eyes closed. Yes, how did you know it was me? Again, sit down, and then anyway, we'll let you see the rest of the drama. Won't spoil it all. What do you call it? Spoiler alert. So ultimately, basically, he does come to realize he's been ripped off. Again, Mr. Burke. And then he meets a devotee, and he finds contrast there. And this is the wonderful thing about Srila Prabhupada's books, is that nobody is actually speaking out. In the Back to Godhead magazine, you see there's a little article there called Prabhupada Speaks Out. And I strongly advise everybody to whenever you get your hands on a Back to Godhead, then read that, because you'll see Prabhupada, how he actually, he challenges people and he also rises to the challenge. He's never defeated. So this is Krishna's devotee. As Krishna is Ajita, unconquerable, and Krishna's pure devotee also is never conquered, because Krishna is backing him up the whole time. What's that song? Ebaro Krunakoro Vaishnava Gosai, and it says about Govinda. Do you remember that? Govinda is in the heart of the devotees, and the devotees are in the heart of Govinda. So that in this way, the Lord is always protecting his devotees. So the more we become dependent on Krishna, the more Krishna will give us protection. Otherwise, we have to seek shelter in the material world, and that shelter will always let us down. So as devotees, we may still engage in material activities, but our consciousness behind it is to put Krishna in the center. So I thought it'd be interesting just to speak a little bit about some practical aspects of associating with devotees, because you won't find devotees in the hellish planets because they're not due to go there. And you won't find them in the heavenly planets because if they go there to enjoy their senses, you wouldn't necessarily call them a devotee. Although the demigods are considered to be devotees, but they're called kanistas or materialistic. They basically they generally just think about Vishnu when the demons attack them. So when it interferes with their enjoyment, then, oh Vishnu, please save us. We are under attack, so we can continue enjoying again. And so it's a type of devotee. We certainly don't disrespect the demigods because they're very powerful entities. But even the demigods, I'll tell you an interesting story actually. Even the demigods look up to the pure devotees. The spiritual master is considered to be the sum total of all the demigods. So there was one time when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, everybody knows who Bhaktivinoda Thakur is? Yeah. So he was on a train journey with his son back to Stanta Saraswati Thakur, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And does anybody know the full story? I hope so. Do you want to tell it?
Yeah, he went into a kind of reverie while he was chanting, and Bhaktivinoda was quite young at the time. He said, what happened there? Where did you go? They said, I'll tell you when you're 16. Because Bhaktivinoda had a photographic memory. The day of his 16th birthday, he immediately said to his father, "Where were you?" and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I was going for an astral japa walk, floating through the universe, and I came across Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, and a few of the great souls, and they were having a discussion about Apichatsu Dharachara, what does it really mean? And they said, oh look, there's Bhaktivinoda. Oh yeah, even if one performs the most abominable activity, if he is correctly situated in his determination, then he's still to be considered saintly. So they were asking, well, how can a saintly person do something abominable? And they said, no, look, that's Bhaktivinoda. Let's ask him. Then he came over and explained the verse for them.
So the demigods were understanding that Bhagavatam Thakur is a pure devotee. You have a better understanding than we as great demigods will have. So this is the position of the pure devotee, that even the demigods will bow down to them. They hold the pure devotee in high regard. I'll give you another little interesting story concerning Srila Prabhupada. Devotees had arranged a program for Srila Prabhupada in the Hardas Hall, and they did a lot of advertising, and almost nobody came. But they were having kirtan anyway, and Secretary who was there. And the devotees later on went to Prabhupada and apologised and said, we're sorry, we did try to get people to come, but we're very sorry that there was almost nobody there. And Prabhupada says, what do you mean? She said, didn't you see Narad Muni was there, Lord Brahma was there? And then they said, so what were they doing then? And he said, and they were laughing at you, my lectures, trying to chant Hare Krishna. Everybody knows what militia is. Militia means like meat eater, Westerner, people in kind of that culture. So they were next to seeing Prabhupada got all these militias to chant Hare Krishna. So a little bit about association with devotees. Now, of course, we're all here because we get the association with Prabhupada, who is undoubtedly Krishna's pure representative. By hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures, seeing videos, hearing about him from his disciples and other devotees, and by reading about him through reading his books, you can get to know Prabhupada. He said, if you ever want to find me, you'll find me in my books. And by hearing from devotees who have written the different biographies of Srila Prabhupada, we can get to know Prabhupada. And one who follows Mahajan Yena Tasapanta, one who follows the footsteps of the great personality of Mahajan, or here it says the Mahatma, one who's actually great, then they will also become great. So this word, prachura, it says abundant. So there's another similar use of this word. Does anybody know it? Prachura. Pracha. Preaching. And what's the other translation of that word? Pracha.
It's like achara.
Pracha.
Behavior.
Behavior, acharan.
Yeah, pracha means overflowing.
Prachur.
Prachura. Yeah, so this is the word here. Prachura means abundant or overflowing. So it's been interpreted that because just like the word God and the word religion is not very pleasant to the ears of people nowadays, they've had enough of that kind of stuff. And just the very words themselves. But the concept people are still interested in, so we use different words like the divine, the supreme, the absolute truth, like that. And yoga, or to connect, to reconnect, words like that. So we say the same things. Even the word preaching is also another word which is not very well received in some places. Some people feel like, I don't think I'm so dumb that you need to preach to me. It's a bit condescending at times. But the word preaching is actually only taken from the word pracha or prachur. There's some connection there. And it means that we're sharing. We take so much Krishna consciousness upon us, just like you put a sponge, you get a dry sponge. Before we get Krishna consciousness, we're all dry sponges. Right? We're trying to enjoy the material world, but it was dry. There was no water there was no nectar. But you take out Krishna consciousness, and the more you absorb Krishna consciousness, you put that sponge in a bucket of water, and you put it in there for some time, and you take it out, and then you try to take it somewhere, and what happens? It's dripping everywhere, isn't it? It's all oozing out. So this is called pracha or preaching, that we take up so much Krishna consciousness into our own life that we just oozes out of us, and it just overflows into the lives of others by our example or by the things we say. So they say that the best way to influence someone is not by precept but by example. It may be the longer way to do it, maybe a bit more, have to be a bit more patient. You can try the precept as well, because some people are interested enough just to hear the precept and think, yeah, that's for me. But if it doesn't, then you have to play the long game of just being friendly with people and by showing a good example. So I just thought it would be interesting to actually speak a little bit about the nectar of devotion, some aspects of the nectar of devotion here, which relate to associating with devotees. So devotees are not considered to be ordinary personalities, and even those, Prabhupada says that one should. So sometimes people have heard it say that a people when they give up following Krishna consciousness or they give up this bond saying, there's no pure devotees in this bond, so I'm just going to go somewhere else. But Prabhupada didn't condone that at all. He didn't support that. He says one should seek out the association of a pure devotee or devotees. It's in black and white, he wrote it. Pure devotee or devotees, because he said even the worst devotee is better than the best non-devotee. Because at least the worst devotee will remind you of Krishna, even if the person gets on your nerves 24 hours a day, or we can't see eye to eye. That should remind you, just think, well, what if I was stuck on a desert island and had the opportunity for the worst devotee or the best karma? What would we take? If we're a devotee of any sort.
That just came up actually, the question on Facebook a few months ago.
Oh yeah.
And quite a few of them were saying they prefer the West karma, they're the best karma.
It's that's a pity. Because how would they be able to associate with a devotee then? Unless they converted that person into being a devotee. Because Jesus Sangha Ranga, by association we become. So if we cannot give association to convert that best karma, then they will convert us. And something's going to give. So in that way you're better with the worst of it, because at least that person accepts Krishna, and by continuing to chant and discuss about Krishna, then all the inauspiciousness is going to disappear in due course. So sometimes we have to be patient with ourselves. Sometimes we're like, I just want to be free from suffering. I want to be fixed in knowledge. Like that. We have to be patient with ourselves, but also we have to be patient with others. So if this person's not advancing fast enough, they're still annoying me. We have to be patient with others as well. And it's not that simply because someone's been around for 2 weeks or 20 years that we can expect something. It's all about the individual's surrender. Someone may join, and within a short period of time they become very surrendered and very advanced. And advanced doesn't mean to say that you look down on everybody. We had one person staying here before who thought they were more advanced than everybody because they could see everyone's faults. But actually, more advanced is the one that sees no faults. Who only sees the good. So, time's getting on. But just quickly mention a little bit of nectar from the Nectar of Devotion here regarding association of devotees, and I suggest everyone becomes well acquainted with these lessons here, because it will help us to understand the situation we're in with the devotees. So, text 2. Once devotional service is spoiled, when it becomes too entangled in following 6 activities. So there's various things here, but number 5 is associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. So this staying in the desert island with the best karma is not recommended by Rupa Goswami. To give up the association of worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness is called Jana Sangha. So in this way, the Jana refers to persons who are in the material world, who are interested in staying in the material world. So Jana Sangha are associated with, or the other one is called Asat Sangha. Lord Chaitanya says Asat Sangha Tyag. We should renounce the association of those who are interested in the material world. Those who are interested in staying and making the material world their home, we should give up their interest. I'm not sure, Amanda, you might have heard this before, but I think it was from a Sufi tradition. There was one story where these 2 wise persons, at least apparently were wise, were discussing something, and then one got up to leave and they said, I'll see you tomorrow, and the other one said, don't bother coming, because if you think that tomorrow is certain and you will be here, then you're not that wise. Have you heard that story? So I heard that one. So basically, their consciousness was such that they understood the material world is so precarious that we can't make any plans to remain in it. And we should be expecting, not meaning to be morbid, but they say a sannyasi wakes up every day and says, today will surely be my last day, so I better be fixing Krishna consciousness. not in a morbid way, they're thinking, perhaps I'll be going to see Krishna today. So they're enthusiastic. So of course maybe some of us are a bit attached, so we're not so enthusiastic, but it could be. And one of these days we will wake up and it will be that day. So it's important to note that one of these days will be the day where the big test will be there. So to give up the association with non-devotees. And then there are 6 principles favourable for the execution of devotional service. I won't go through all of them. But abandoning the association of non-devotees, following the footsteps of the acharyas. So it's in Vedic knowledge to tell you what is not to be done and what's to be done, nivriti, pravriti, the path to follow, the path to avoid. So the path to avoid is to avoid which is going to spoil it as association with devotees. And the thing which is favourable is to give up the association of non-devotees. Of course, that doesn't mean to say we become hermits, but it's all about how we conduct ourselves. And okay, so how to associate with devotees? So Toksha, you're expert in the method of instruction, text 4, what's the Sanskrit?
Danasi Pratiginati Gurima Pitipiti Bhonta Bhonchachi Seva Sadhadan Pratilakshana.
Offering gifts in charity.
Accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam and offering prasadam are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. And you can put this into practice, even maybe we don't have a lot of love for each other at this point in time, we're still trying to battle with our mind and senses, and there may be some idiosyncrasies amongst each other in the association of devotees. We have to get past that. So sometimes we might even feel, oh, I've offended somebody, I spoke harshly to somebody, or I treated somebody wrongly, or I thought wrongly of them. But we can fix it. We can offer our obeisances, and we can apply these 6, any one or more of these 6 things. We can give a gift to someone, we can give them some prasadam, find out what prasadam they like, and then if there's some there, then make sure that they get enough. Or we can ask them, we can inquire from them. So there's ways where these are the ways where we actually associate positively. And next one, text 5, Hoaxja. Thank you. One should mentally honour the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. And was it Rupa Goswami was asked, who is a devotee? And he said, anyone who chants the holy name of Krishna is a devotee. So this is, particularly in Kali Yuga, this is the Yuga Dharma. So someone chants Hare Krishna, they're a devotee. They might not even know it. We're in Harinam and they're saying it out of fun, but they're next to be on Harinam. When we're dead and gone, next life they'll be around doing Harinam and people will be laughing at them. And then everyone will get liberated in due course. Or even in this life, we've experienced that some people mock the Harinam or even attack the Harinam and later on find themselves shaved up at the temple chanting on beads. They might curse the devotees, but they're chanting and they get purified. It's not favourable. It should become favourable. And by chanting, then they get purified to get the opportunity where it can become favourable. One should mentally honour the devotee who chants the holy name of Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshipping the deity. So not just worshipping the deity, it's not that everyone who's had diksha but doesn't worship the deity, you don't have to pay your obeisances to. You might be initiated, but you're not worshipping the deity, so you don't get my obeisances. It's not like that. We're all worshipping the deity. And even the devotees who are not initiated, diksha, they're also worshipping the deity because whatever service we're doing is for the pleasure of the deities. Maybe sweeping the floor, but it's the deity's floor. Just like John and I were outside the other day and we're sweeping the yard. And it's Krishna's yard, and we're doing it for the purpose of making it nice for guests to come along. And then Indra's come along and just washed it all after we've just swept it. So he's also serving Kodnitai Marpushashi. So whatever we're doing, we see it in relation to Krishna emptying the bins. It's Krishna's bins we're emptying. And so it's all related to the deities. Don't think, well, unless I'm on the altar, my service has got no effect. That's such a materialistic view. That's someone who thinks that the deity is only, that God is only in the deity form and only in the temple and doesn't exist anywhere else. So anyway, but the fact is there that one who's undergone a spiritual initiation diksha, because it means that they've proven to a bona fide spiritual master that they are at the stage where they can be accepted as a disciple. Not that we have to be actually completely perfect and pure before we can become initiated, because disciple means we're putting ourselves under the care of the spiritual master to discipline us to become pure devotees. And discipline doesn't always mean it's like getting yelled at or getting hard lessons, but he's molding us so that he can say, Krishna, here's another devotee for you. He's coming back. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who's advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So, and that would be the spiritual master or someone in that caliber. So these are the three types of devotees: Kanistha Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. You can learn more about this in the Nectar of Instruction. And I know you're all eager to share one of those loving exchanges by going and taking prasadam, so we'll be very quick just to finish up. And text 6 of Hoxija, Drishtaya. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee as having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, deformed body, or diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. So generally, if you go to bathe somewhere and it's full of bubbles, foam, or mud, you won't bathe there because it's not considered to be clean. But here it says, the Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. So similarly, even if someone sees that a devotee may have some physical defect, or they can't pronounce Sanskrit properly, so therefore, I'm not going to take this one seriously. These are just like material defects. They're nothing to do with spiritual advancement. And even there's a verse in the Bhagavatam that says that this message of Bhagavatam, even though irregularly composed, will be heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. And some people take this as being a verse which foretells the appearance of Srila Prabhupada coming to the West and translating Bhagavatam, because it fits. Okay, I'll just stop there, Zen. We'll get any questions or comments. Yes.
You may be very materially competent, and the devotee may not be so efficient or proficient, materially speaking.
So Prabhupada makes the point that the Prabhupada don't look at the superficial abilities or inabilities. The devotee may space out, he may forget something, he may be going to do this, then he does that instead. And the other person who's coming along is thinking, this is not very together. But he says, look beyond the superficialities and see the person's service, how long he's been steadily dedicating himself to serving Krishna, and try and appreciate the devotee on that level.
It's good for Krishna as well, because also in Bhagavatam, like Krishna says, it's better to perform one's duty imperfectly than another's imperfectly. So if someone's trying their best and actually trying their best, then whatever they lack, Krishna will carry that. We've read that in Bhagavad Gita too. Krishna will make up for what they lack and carry what they have. So it's a sincere attempt to serve Krishna, and there was a very good example of this Lord Chaitanya, when he was travelling all around by foot, 6 years he spent travelling throughout India on foot, and he came across one Brahmin who was in ecstasy, and it says, he said, why are you crying? He said, I'm just crying in ecstasy because, he says, why is that? He said, well, and apparently he was given Bhagavad Gita to read, but he didn't even know how to hold it up, because he was illiterate. And he said, my spiritual master has given me this Bhagavad Gita to read. He says, but I cannot read. He says, but I think it's wonderful that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is accepting the role of his devotees, as a servant of his devotee by driving his chariot for him. And Lord Chaitanya says that you have understood Bhagavad Gita. So by his endeavour to fulfill the spiritual master's order, even though materially he had no ability, then he was given the blessings of the Lord who is within the heart, receiving his endeavour. So the main thing is, are we doing it for Krishna? And if we're not, then we can adjust that and just try to do it for Krishna. And even if we don't know how to do that, before we start our service, just say, my dear Lord, today please accept all my service for your pleasure. I remember doing that on Sankirtan. Particularly I remember on the bridges, North Bridge in Edinburgh, and I had a cold, it was raining, people were horrible to me, at least that was my perception of it. Maybe they weren't, maybe it was just my unwillingness to be there. And I realised I don't actually have to be here, I can walk away. There's nothing saying that I have to be here, this is voluntary. But I chose to stay because I thought, well, Prabhupada's pleased by this, so I thought, Prabhupada and Krishna are pleased by this, so let me just offer it, please accept this offering, even though I'm not very willing, not having a great time. But if you're happy with it, then I'm prepared to carry on. So this should be ours. It doesn't have to be that we will pray when we're having a hard time carrying on. We can offer. So every day, basically, before I start my service, I would say, please accept this Sankirtan, or please accept this day's service for your pleasure, and please direct me how I can do it better. So it's not necessarily that we have to be having headphones on and listening to instructions all the time, or we have to be trying to merge into Krishna's pastimes, or we're doing something because that could be a distraction. Or even speaking with devotees, asking questions like, where's that brush? That's devotion service. We're looking for something to serve Krishna. Okay, so we could go on a little longer. I would just stop because we haven't gone too long. It's gone very good in the key. She got the time after such key. Interaction with Bhagavatam key.
Great Prabhupada Prana Prabhu ki.